So what's up people and welcome to the Mission 86 discussion of Spy Family. So Mission 86 came out a while ago, and as always I will leave a link to this mission that's currently being shown on the publisher's official website, Manga Plus, for free to the North American audience. So if you're interested, we'll go take a look at it before they pull this mission back. So Mission 86 was really interesting. It was really chock full of a lot of information. And of course, it comes after a really exciting chapter that we saw in Mission 85 when Fiona went completely nutso and she ended up destroying Winston Wheeler, but in so doing, she also ended up destroying her own body as well. And at the end of Mission 85, we were all worried that, if Winston didn't get knocked out by Fiona's last devastating attack, then Fiona was going to be in major trouble because she was in no shape to be able to take on Winston beyond that point. But luckily, when we read Mission 86, we find out, Winston did get knocked out finally by that point. But it looked like Fiona wasn't even finished with him yet, and she was ready to basically kill him with whatever appendage she had left, which almost looked like her head. She was about to give him a headbutt. And considering that she gets more damage than he does, it may have ended up killing her as well. But luckily, Twilight had already regained consciousness by that time, and he ends up stopping her, telling her that it was not worthwhile to kill him, especially at the cost of her life, and that Winston was more valuable alive as a prisoner of the Wise organization than he was dead. And so he stops Fiona, and Fiona is flopping around trying to get to Twilight. And they finally do tie him up, and with that, a little bit of the tension ceases. Of course, this gives the two of them some chance to relax and contemplate, and it's at that point that Fiona mentions that it was surprising that Winston was able to get the upper hand on Twilight. Of course, we know that Twilight was deeply exhausted. He just finished a fight against Yuri. He got very injured from that. And so we can understand that, but even from Twilight's perspective, he was also not happy that he was taken down by Winston. Now, in the meantime, Fiona recalls what she said to Winston, and she starts panicking. If you recall, Winston kind of gave her an insult by saying that she was too caring to people. And of course, she responded back that Winston was too weak because he did not care about anybody except himself, and he worried too much about not wanting to die, and he wouldn't risk his life for the situation. Fiona, of course, would risk her life, and she mentioned that for the person she cares about, which of course was Twilight. And now that she realized what she said, she was worried that Twilight wasn't completely knocked out and he heard all of her conversation. And she starts panicking and glaring at Twilight, which of course Twilight's like, why are you looking at me so angrily? And considering the fact that Fiona just mentioned that Winston took him down, Twilight starts misunderstanding that Fiona's angry because he lost to Winston. Basically, she's saying, you're losing your edge, Twilight, or at least that's what Twilight thinks. And of course, Twilight himself agrees that he is no longer the efficient, cold-hearted killer that he used to be before he met Anya and Yor. And this is a very interesting comment, which I'll come back to later. And he's basically being very critical about himself, and he's thinking that, of course, Fiona is also being very angry at him because of this. But if you read the chapter, you see all the comments, and there's nothing that Fiona's angry about. Actually, she's doing her usual yandere comments with regards to Twilight, right? And they're really goofy comments. But in any case, he does start worrying about that situation. And in the meantime, Fiona asks how he got his arm wounded, and he answers that it's because he fought with Yuri. And Fiona asks, did he kill Yuri? And Agent Twilight answers that he didn't. And he mentions that because Yuri is Yor's brother, and Yor puts a tremendous amount of care about her brother. If he was to kill Yuri, then this would affect Yor, which would eventually affect Operation Strix. And with that, of course, although he's talking about the mission, she reads right through it and realizes that he is starting to care more and more about Yor. But the way he said it, he does say that it may jeopardize his mission, and that's why he didn't kill Yuri. And Fiona thinks that is such an unfair statement that you said, because he puts it in a situation that she cannot argue against. And then it's at that point that I got my first jump scare of this mission, which was when Agent Gascon of the Ostanian Secret Police creeps up behind them. And it turns out that it's not Agent Gascon, but it's actually Twilight's partner, who was dressed up as Gascon, and I completely forgot about that. And of course, he's like, we gotta get the heck out of here, you know? So now, with Gascon there, they're able to become mobile again. And since Fiona can't walk, Agent Twilight decides to carry Fiona while his partner carries Winston Wheeler. And of course now, Fiona's being carried by Lloyd. And of course, her reaction is what you expect when a yandere gets carried by the one she loves, right? And she's about to explode because of that. And luckily, her arms were broken, because if she exploded the same way Yor explodes whenever she gets embarrassed, Twilight might have been in an extremely bad situation. But in any case, they load up Winston and they're finally able to get out of that situation. And I love that image of Fiona now that her adrenaline has come down. Yeah, her entire body is in absolute pain. And with things cooling down, the other agents talk to Twilight about maybe debriefing this entire mission at a bar, right? Basically as a joke. And Twilight says he can't because he has to go home because of the situation with Yor. I completely forgot about that as well. This entire mission started out as a comedy when Yor talked with all the girls at work, and they said that she had to have some gripes. And of course, if you recall, this all started with a big argument that Yor had, saying that she had to have some gripes. She wanted to have some gripes. And so Lloyd, remembering that, started talking to his partners about that. And of course, Fiona's like, oh, maybe this is my chance to get in on this situation, you know? And so anyway, Lloyd tells everybody that he has to go home. And Fiona's willing to try to support him by going home with him. And Lloyd's like, nah, you gotta get to the hospital. You can't even walk already, you know? And so he finally gets back home alone, and he's worried about what he will say, because he remembers that he left this situation with Yor absolutely angry and with so many gripes. And so with that, he prepares for whatever he can say, and he's greeted with an extremely sweet Yor telling Lloyd, welcome home. And Lloyd's wondering, I wonder what happened, considering we left in such a stressful manner. But seeing Yor in her cheerful demeanor made him finally drop his guard, and with that, he finally fell down exhausted from the entire day. And the fact that he couldn't even read Yor made Twilight realize that he is seriously losing his edge. And Yor, worried about Lloyd being so beat up, asks him what happened. And of course, Lloyd tells Yor about another story of a fight that occurred in the psychiatric ward today. And we finally get a shot of Anya, that we haven't seen Anya for such a long time. So this chapter has some really interesting scenes, right? And so Lloyd finally gets up and apologizes to Yor, which of course makes Yor go, why are you apologizing to me? And so of course he brings back the discussion with regards to how she was really angry at him this morning. And Yor answers, well, actually, I wasn't angry at you at all. I just wanted to have my gripes. And she talks about the discussion she had with the girls at the office. And because of that, she just wanted to have her gripes, but she was actually very happy being together. Which, of course, at this point, just completely dumbfounds Lloyd. And considering all the situations that he had to endure today, it finally made him fall to the ground. And Yor, really worried about him, says she would be happy to take care of all of the chores that Lloyd does at home for the next few days. And Lloyd asks her, "Why are you so happy doing my chores? Why are you trying so hard to help out?" And Yor answers back, though she had mentioned that she was upset and had all these gripes, she was actually more worried about her inability to support the family rather than to be angry. And she always felt that she didn't contribute enough, and that considering Lloyd was such a perfect husband, she was not a perfect wife. So when she got the opportunity to be able to support Lloyd, it became a happy occasion for her. And so it ends in a very sweet manner, or at least it would have had two things not happened. First, of course, Lloyd is still worried about becoming soft due to his relationship with Yor. But the other thing was the other jump scare that I got, which was that Yuri came to the apartment. He was all beat up and Yor was worried about him. But in the meantime, while welcoming Yuri to the apartment and Lloyd getting some coffee or tea prepared, Yuri notices that Lloyd is wincing in pain from his arm, and when he remembers that he shot Twilight in that very arm, he actually runs over and pulls up his sleeve. And I was like, oh my gosh, I know a lot of commenters were like, this was going to happen, and this would basically reveal that Lloyd was Twilight. But when Yuri looks at the arm, it's perfectly fine. And so, although he was initially suspicious of Lloyd, he realizes that that doesn't make any sense because Lloyd is just the idiot, he never was worth anything, and Twilight is a very competent agent. How can such a fool be Twilight? And in the meantime, of course, Yor knows how exhausted Lloyd is, so she finally pushes Yuri out and sends him home. And that gives Lloyd finally the chance to be by himself, and we find out that he used the disguise to cover his injury. And even at that situation where he almost let his identity get revealed in front of Yuri, he's realizing that he is losing his touch. He is no longer the strong agent that he used to be. And as he comes out of the shower, he notices that there's smoke in the apartment. He's wondering if somebody came to infiltrate, and it all just turns out to be Yor trying to iron Lloyd's shirt and of course making a whole mess about it. And this is enough to finally take Lloyd over the edge, and he ends up passing out in the situation. Now, the last time Lloyd passed out, we got a flashback into his past life. I'm wondering if every time he passes out, there'll be another flashback. It'll be interesting to see what the next chapter is. But there is one worrisome situation. Throughout this entire chapter, Lloyd is now talking about how he has to change back to his old cold demeanor again. Now, a lot of the people, especially the viewers of the anime, were very hopeful that Lloyd will become this soft, warmer, caring person that will be able to be the head of the family. But if he does go back to being the cold, ruthless spy, then it will be interesting to see how that reflects to Anya and to Yor. And so it will be interesting, considering just how upset he was about him going soft because he was more caring. It will be interesting to see how Lloyd acts over the next few chapters. But we won't know what happens until the next chapter, and once it comes out, I'll bring out another video. I hope you join me at that time. But this is the Mission 86 discussion for Spy Family. If you read it, what you think about it, any comments will be appreciated. And until the next episode, happy manga reading, and as always, Jaya, nice day everyone.